Hey everybody, welcome to Test Chamber, where we play new games. I'm Kyle Hilliard, and Jeff Marchiafava is here.
Hey.
You just saw on the screen what we're playing. It's a little game called ReCore.
It is.
Jeff, you reviewed this.
I did.
What's happening right now?
We have started the game, but unfortunately the game starts with a loading screen to get to...
Okay, so we're moving a little bit here.
Yeah. But that only loaded these 4 companies.
Just to load giant, image files, I guess?
You're going to have to wait longer to load the actual start screen.
So, but it's like a GTA 5 load, right? Where you get like one long load and then you never really have to deal with loading anymore after that?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay. So you reviewed this. You played this.
I did.
You played it a lot over the weekend, I think.
I did. And
you really loved it?
I enjoyed parts of it.
Okay. That's a nice way of saying that you...
Yeah. I do mean that seriously more than, some other bad games that I end up playing where it's just a total pain and you don't want to play anything. This game definitely does have good aspects to it.
Okay. This is one I have not touched this yet, but ever since they announced it, I've been excited about it. I've thought it looks cool. I like Armature's their sort of resume of games.
Sure.
I like Keiji Inafune because I like Mega Man X. Though his clout has diminished somewhat since he left Capcom. I mean, like, we can admit that. Like, Mighty Number 9 didn't do super great, and even his other games that he's been working on were sort of meh. Sure. One got canceled right out, and then there was that Ninja Gaiden game. So anyway, there are reasons that I was excited about this game, and I was disappointed to see your 5 review, but even with that, you kind of have the caveat, even in your review, of like, there is some cool stuff about this game.
Absolutely. And we should also note that, on our scale, a 5 game it has redeeming qualities, but it is, kind of fundamentally flawed.
Okay.
And I couldn't think of a better description.
All right.
In this game. So tell me
what you're doing right here.
Yeah, one of the big draws is that you get these kind of robot animal companions with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll get these different blueprints as you go on, and you can build them out down here like this. But then you also here are some of the actual ones. So you can
mix and match and
you try and buy, or you try and collect, full suits to give you special bonuses and everything.
Okay.
But you'll start to notice a lot of really weird kind of design decisions throughout the game. And one of them is this, where you actually upgrade your units. So you can see the colored numbers up at the top, where I have, 10,000 of
yellow
sort of different ones. Yeah. You upgrade each of your 3 kind of companions separately, and you upgrade each stat separately. But in order to upgrade them, you have to press the button and slowly fill up this meter like this. And there's no way to speed this up. And I mean, you will literally do this for hundreds and hundreds of levels throughout the game. And so there's this really weird, just time-consuming roadblock of, a very basic action that is important to the game. And you will run into these kind of hurdles kind of throughout the game. And so, like, when I first started playing, I was actually really enjoying it. And then, usually you would think of a Metroid game, a Metroid-style game would get better and better the longer that you play, but this one kind of just continues to drag you down and down.
Okay. And you cite Metroid specifically because the guys at Armature worked on Metroid Prime.
Yeah, and that's been kind of part of the whole sales pitch of this game. It's kind of from the creators of Mega Man and Metroid, and so you can put those two together in your mind and kind of dream of the ultimate hybrid. And
it's not this.
It doesn't work out that way. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is another loading screen.
Yeah.
Which the game has become kind of known for at this point.
Mm-hmm. The worst areas with load times, I actually got out my phone and started clocking them, and some of them were over 2 minutes. that you have to wait. Yeah. Including after death if you die during combat.
Okay.
Which thankfully for the platforming sequences, they will automatically kind of just reset where you were. And so you don't have to worry about the load time for those. But there are plenty of dungeons and things where you will kind of beat your head against the wall because sometimes the combat is fickle or very demanding, and it just is so much more frustrating when you have a long wait like this afterwards.
Yeah, I feel like we've been here for a while already. Is this the kind of loading times you see when you die, or is this one exceptional because you're going into a new area?
It does this load whether you're going into the area for the first time or if you die.
Really?
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay.
Unless you die during a platforming sequence.
Then you're just put back to the... Okay, that's nice.
But you can tell if you've been, fighting enemies or whatever, they have to completely reset the world.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, you don't...
No fall damage?
Nope.
And you just have a dude that kind of... You just pick your robots and two of them follow you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's one of your robots. You will get 3 kind of personality cores, essentially, and you can put them into 4 different mechanical frames as you're playing.
Okay. Is this so? You have red, blue, and yellow. Is this kind of like a rock, paper, scissors kind of situation where
No, it's more you just have to match the color with whatever the color is.
Oh,
so it's not like, if it's fire, you want water. If one character is red, you want to shoot him with your red gun.
And do they just not take damage at all otherwise? Is that kind of the idea? Or they just take a lot more from their similar colors?
They just take more. Yeah,
okay.
You can actually defeat them with any color, but you'll want to match it up.
Okay. And that's based on that health meter above their head?
Yep.
Oh, well, see, there's a blue X over that dude.
Yeah, you don't have to work with that.
Oh, okay. But it's always very telegraphed what you need to hit them with.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I should actually be switching my color there, but... and so...
Oh, that's cool. You got a little...
Yeah, so as you build up a combo meter, you will get that kind of ability to instantaneously extract one of the cores. And so one of the interesting wrinkles of combat just in general is you can either blow up an enemy like I have been doing, or you can, once they're weakened, you can kind of pull out the core that's inside of it.
How many jumps do you have there? 2?
You have a double jump, and then you have your boost ability.
So you're not... And are those things that you unlocked, or you kind of start with that stuff?
Yeah, you start with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so, as I said in the review, the platforming, is the best part, and it's actually...
Yeah.
It holds up really well.
I like what I'm seeing. I feel like I haven't really played a good platformer in a long time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Usually the platforming is really secondary to a broader experience. But this is cool. I feel like I haven't done jumping like this in a while. So.
Yeah, and it works pretty good. Let's see.
Oh, so you just called that guy in?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I actually don't want him. I want my little buddy here, because we are going to go over this.
You got me?
I chose this area because
cool.
It's actually one of the more interesting ones. You have this kind of
giant drill of
big
some kind?
drill in the middle. Yeah, which, let's see, we're going to land.
Are you on
here.
Earth?
No. This is a
okay.
different... Okay.
Whoops.
Okay. Well, we'll just go right...
So that's how that's supposed to work.
That is not how that's supposed to work.
Oh, okay.
But
What the heck?
we didn't die, so... All right.
You were just trying to get around to this side?
Yeah, we're trying to get over here.
That's weird. Okay.
You'll notice some things like that, Kyle, while
Yeah.
you play. It's a little rough around the edges, just above and beyond the load time.
I forgot what I was asking you about now. I got so distracted. So that resets your jumps?
Yep.
Okay. And you have a little grappling hook thing?
Yeah. So actually, I could have jumped onto that with the spider one, but
Yeah.
I have this one out instead. And so that's sometimes there's variety like that where you can choose which one that you're using.
Mm-hmm.
But other times, and one of the big problems with the game is that you will... Let's see. Do I have the spider guy with me? Yes, I do. You get the different robots that go along with you, and each one kind of has its own unique method for traversal, like this guy does. He can kind of bring you out and hover. And so it's kind of Metroid-esque in that way, where they have all these, these kind of gated locations that you can't get into until you have the right robot. Mm-hmm. But because you can only bring 2 with you at any time, you often will come across something and you simply don't have the right robot to get it. So in this case, I could get around that because I had the floating guy. Or, there was the option I could either float in or I could use the track that the spider grabs onto. But oftentimes it will just be like, well, okay, here's this giant rock that I want to smash, and I need the gorilla robot in order to smash it. But if I don't have him with me, I have to go back to a fast travel location to swap out which robots I have.
Yeah, okay.
So it's kind of like in a Metroid game, once you unlock that the new toy, essentially, you have it with you all the time, and you don't have to go back to the save room, in order to pull it out when you need it.
Yeah, I could see why that would become frustrating over time.
Yeah.
That was my biggest complaint about Yoshi's Island DS, actually. You remember that game, right?
Sure.
I'm sure they're kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
Do we just see a loading screen for a loading screen? Like we had a black loading screen, and now we have a colorful
sometimes
loading screen.
It takes a while for the actual image of where you're going to come up to.
Okay.
That's how you know you're in for a really long load time. But so this is basically a dungeon area. You have this very large open world, and unfortunately there's not a lot in the open world. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. But then you have these kind of styled dungeons where it's actually built with... There are basically 3 different types. This one is an adventure one, so it kind of mixes platforming and combat together. Then you have traversal ones, which is just platforming, and arena ones, which is just combat.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's see. For this one, I think...
Is that an enemy there on the floor? Or just a... Yeah, like, well, what are these things?
Yeah, they just hang out. Oh, maybe they'll hit me if
you try to stomp
if I bug
on
them. Yeah. So...
Is the story engaging? Were you excited to see it through to the end?
I actually was, and that also became a problem because the game is constantly gating your progress through the main story. Mm-hmm. Here, if I'll just stop real quick and we can look. So these are kind of the dungeons that you'll go to.
Mm-hmm.
And each one on the side there you'll see has certain requirements. And so you have to get to that level. You have to get your character to that level, and the kind of nuclear-looking symbol are the prismatic cores that you'll be collecting. You kind of collect those from bosses and from, treasures and stuff like that. And so you have to have the certain number of them in order to go into that.
So it's kind of like this arbitrary...
Yeah,
right?
It's kind of 2 arbitrary ones. And so if you can't just stick to the main story missions and expect to continue progressing throughout the game. You have to go do some side content, which is fine. And in the beginning of the game, it's not a huge issue because you're having fun exploring at first, and the requirements aren't too bad that you're not sidetracked for too long. But eventually, the levels become... It takes longer to grind up to get to your character to a high enough level, and you start running out of kind of the easy cores to find, and you have to start backtracking through old dungeons and looking for what you're missing out. So this was...
Is the floor lava here?
No, you can actually touch it. This was kind of an early puzzle where we're not going to be able to see some of the puzzles because I've already completed them. They don't reset or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But you've had to find a little kind of cellbot thing that plugs into there in order to activate this track. And those cellbots also become annoying because in order to get into a dungeon, like not necessarily like this one, but some of the optional dungeons where you're going to need to go in order to get, the extra cores and things that you need in order to progress. Before you can open the door, you'll need to find a certain number of these kind of hidden little floating battery guys. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of just hidden in this big, barren open world, and you have no idea where they are. So if you get to, an area of the story where you can't progress because you need extra cores or whatever, first you need to go to a dungeon to grind, but in order to get into the dungeon to grind, you have to first find these extra hidden little cell bots in order to just open the door, and then you can start grinding. And it just creates all of these unnecessary roadblocks that stop you from actually having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is another example of kind of these puzzles where you need a specific companion. And these are fun. They're kind of simple but interesting puzzles, and then they also, because this is an adventure dungeon, they also kind of add these combat scenarios.
Okay.
So there's not a ton to say about the combat.
You're just locking on. Excuse me. You're just locking on, right?
Yeah. I mean, it controls well. I like having your robot companions. They're actually really helpful. They have a special move that kind of recharges that you can.
Are they just totally on their own, or are you sort of commanding them at all? Or?
You command them when to use their special charges.
Okay.
Otherwise, they'll just do their normal attack. The combat holds up pretty well. Your character has a kind of a stagger animation when you get hit.
And you're just so good that we haven't seen it yet, right?
Right. Well, you kind of learn to mitigate this problem, but sometimes an enemy or multiple enemies will attack you, and you'll go into the stagger animation, which completely removes control from you, during which time they will hit you with follow-up attacks. And it only takes a couple hits from a powerful enemy to kill you, and so all too often I would get into these situations where you'll be in a minutes-long battle, and you get hit one time, and you kind of get staggered, and then multiple enemies will continue hitting you before you can move, which continues to stagger you, and then pretty soon, you're dead in a matter of seconds, and then you have, a minute-long or 2-minute-long load that you have to sit through before you can start it again. So combat can be frustrating, but you kind of learn to deal with that and just stay off the ground as often as possible, and don't get electrocuted like that.
Yeah, that would seem like that you shouldn't have done that.
So this is another. I really like this dungeon because it's one of the more unique ones. They kind of have.
It seems like you're doing a lot of different stuff here.
Yeah, this maze that you go through. There are these giant.
So you don't want to get hit by this.
Yeah. Giant Indiana Jones style.
This is supposed to be like a factory
boulders.
or something? Do those serve some purpose?
I guess they keep, interlopers off of your rails.
I guess so.
Sometimes, unless they have a double jump that they...
Oh, you're not supposed to do that. Oh, you're just cheating.
Yeah, so when you have...
Holy cow.
Kind of designed scenarios like this, they're usually pretty interesting, and I like the platforming throughout. Sometimes sometimes the kind of ground detection when you land can be a little off, and Jewel will kind of just float in the air for a second, but by and large, later in the game, they throw kind of these ridiculous platforming sequences at you, and the controls hold up well.
Here we go.
So,
and you get experience by pushing through these again. Like you said, you can't do the puzzles again and stuff, but you get
you'll get experience from defeating these enemies. If I cannot die here. All right, I'll just use my instant strat. That move is basically like when Indiana Jones pulls out his revolver, because he doesn't want to fight that guy. It's kind of like you save it up for when you get in danger. And
save it up for when you're like, I don't feel like doing this.
All right, and so that is about the length and size of a dungeon.
Okay, and how many of those are there throughout the course of the game? I know you said there are different types, right?
Yeah, there's basically just go back to the beginning. There would have been a larger boss battle there, but I already defeated it, and the bosses don't come back.
Well, that was a quick load. Do some more of those.
I know, right? So all of basically these little yellow areas are dungeons, and so there's a little over a dozen of them.
Okay. Is that a giant hand up there? What's that?
It is, and so we will head out here.
This is kind of the open world portion of it.
Yeah, and actually we are right next to the fast travel ability. Let's switch out. We'll go with the spider and the ape guy.
We should call them by their names. Seth and Duncan.
Seth and Duncan, yeah, obviously. And so...
Is that guy cute? Is he funny?
She just kind of babbles like that.
Okay.
And so we'll take a little look at the kind of open world that you are put into.
And it's not open world in like that Grand Theft Auto sense. It's like, is it open world like in that Metroid sense where it's like this kind of expanding series of levels that are all interconnected?
It's kind of like in the Zelda sense where they are very large open areas. They are somewhat, each big open area will kind of be gated off from another area, so you'll have to eventually go through into another zone and load it. But the zones themselves are very large. But unfortunately, there's also not a lot to do in them.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll patch it to kind of help with some of the loading, because like Bloodborne was able to do that.
Yeah, and there's definitely room for improvement in that way. Like the upgrade thing that I showed you, when it's super slow, I'm sure hopefully they could add something to just speed it up and say, okay, I want to put 100 levels into, this character now, and that would help. That would definitely, there are definitely small things like that. The stagger animation and things that I've already mentioned that could be fixed. But
there are bigger, broad sort of long-term issues with the game, yeah.
And the progression thing that I'm talking about is really the main one. When you get to the final area, which we're obviously not going to show, it's kind of this tower that is 5 different floors, and each one is kind of a gauntlet of platforming and combat scenarios. Mm-hmm. And it really, tests all of your skills up to that point, and it kind of leads up to the boss battle. And I really liked the entire tower, but unfortunately each floor has its own level requirements again, and prismatic core requirement. And so when I first got to the tower, I was level 18 and I had to be level 20, so I left for like a half an hour and did a little grinding and then came back and made my way through the first floor. And then when I got to the second floor, there's a door that you need to be level 22 to open.
Okay, all right.
And so you have to leave. And I had gotten a little XP. I had gotten up to level 21 just doing that floor, but then I had to leave. And of course, the higher the level that you go, the longer it takes.
Yeah.
And so the floors are only about 10 minutes long each, and so it would be a nice lead up to the final boss battle, but instead they're just kind of these bite-sized gameplay moments, and then you have to leave and go out and grind more for really no reason at all. I never really could wrap my head around why you have these requirements in place.
I mean, sometimes it's interesting to have those barriers of like, I need a special jump or something. But to just have like an arbitrary level, I can see why that would be frustrating.
Yeah. And especially, at some point the combat doesn't really evolve anymore. You can buy new frames for your companions, which makes them more powerful, but you're not really getting any more abilities for them or anything. So
it improves their stats basically.
Yeah, it's just pointless grinding at this point. And so you can see on the map, like all throughout here, there's really not anything out here except for these giant sand dunes.
And there's no other, you can't ride one of your buddies around like a vehicle or anything?
No. And so, I went all over the map and explored, kind of all the different corners of it, and some of them are just, confusingly empty.
Yeah.
So the last thing I wanted to do is we can take a look at one of the arena fights.
I do like the landscape and like the weird buildings in the distance and just like that.
Yeah.
What the hell's that thing? That's cool.
Yeah, and like I said, when I started the game, I really enjoyed the world and I enjoyed the premise. And the story actually holds up pretty well throughout the entire game. You'll just have to deal with these roadblocks in order to get to the next part. So I know people usually think, they would look at a 5.5 score and think that the game is just complete garbage. But really, you have to look at how our review scale works. And there are still parts of this game that I do like, but just a lot of flaws. This is actually one of the few dungeons. It still has a level requirement, as you can see, but I didn't have to collect, the hidden batteries in order to get into it. So,
yeah, in a weird way, it seems like just talking to you and reading your review and stuff, it seems like they did craft a game with some cool stuff, but like they just kept like shooting themselves in the foot by like putting up these barriers to prevent you from getting like to the cool stuff.
Yeah, and I would suspect that it would have something to do with the total game time. I think I got to that final tower about 10 hours into the game, and I didn't beat it until 20 hours. It was just a lot of, okay, well, now I have to go out. I have to find more of these cores. I have to level up my character some more, and just, continually doing that. And it got to the point where I had gotten all of the easy cores, and I just needed one more. And so I had to continue. I went back to a couple dungeons that still had them, and I just couldn't find where they were hidden. And I tried to open up, some of the side dungeons that I hadn't gone to yet, but I couldn't find the batteries out in the environment. At some point, you think, just why am I having to do this in order to just enjoy, the parts of the game that I'm enjoying?
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then you get more load times.
These load times, man. Oh my gosh.
So let's see.
So this is an arena fight.
Yes.
Okay.
And so since it's an arena fight, what did I? Yeah, I'll do Mac and Duncan.
Have we seen the big you call him like there
He's
he is,
right
that
there.
guy.
Yep.
Dog from Half-Life 2, right?
Yeah, he is by far the most powerful one.
Well, he's your tank, right?
Yep. See, Duncan smashes him. You don't have to tell him to do that.
Oh, okay. See, I thought maybe since she was speaking, I thought maybe you had initiated that.
No, I did, but I'm telling her you don't have to tell Duncan to smash
okay.
things. I mean, come on. So one of the things about all of these kind of side dungeons is that you'll have these objectives that you can complete, and those will open up, treasure chests at the end. But unfortunately, they're all kind of the same. These three same objectives. So you want to get through as fast as you can. You want to find a hidden key, and then you want to shoot these colored switches, which is kind of a pain in these arena battles, because you'll be trying to aim at enemies, and you'll kind of just lock on to these switches that are,
Yeah, how do you switch between enemies? Just let go of the lock and...
You just tap on the right analog stick.
Okay, so you can...
You'll flip between them.
And colors are mapped to the D-pad there, it looks like, right? Okay.
And so you also have you shoot a normal shot, and then you can kind of charge it up, as I've been doing the entire time.
Okay, that's like a Mega Man thing.
And that will break down their shields. Yeah, and the AI for your companions is pretty good. They'll usually be smart enough to kind of seek out enemies by themselves and hit them, and wait for you to signal a special attack. I'll just shoot those stupid switches so they'll stop getting in my way.
So how do the switches work? Like, that's part of the challenge. You have to just hit all the switches while you're fighting people? Or they serve a purpose, like they're blocking new enemies from coming out certain doors?
You just have to hit them while you're going through.
Okay,
and so it kind of makes more sense in like the traversal dungeons, where they'll be hidden and you have to kind of figure out where they are while you're doing the platforming sequences. But in the arena battles, they're kind of just all along the walls and the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like that one.
And so when she's saying slam them, and so that's you pressing a button to tell Doug from
you'll see
Half-Life
those
2
little
to help you out.
circles up on Duncan's health bar, and that's how many special moves that you have saved up. And they recharge pretty quickly, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Yeah, so, combat is fun. It feels good, but after a couple hours in, you will have perfected your approach to enemies, and you don't really have to change it up much.
It's kind of a locking and dodging, right? I mean, that's...
That guy just dropped the key. Whoa, don't want to go down there.
I was like, what are you doing?
All right,
Is she the kind of video game character that dies the second she hits the lava, or does she like bounce up and grab her butt that's on fire?
It depends on what kind of poison you're dropping into. I think the lava, you'll just you'll burn a little, but you can hop out of it if you're fast enough. Some other types, you'll just die.
Oh,
yeah, that guy's shooting. Send Duncan up there.
Yeah, this looks pretty frantic in like a cool way.
Yeah, and it holds up. Like I said, sometimes you'll get stuck in a cycle of being staggered and you lose control and they'll just beat you up.
And that's like that electrocution kind of animation that she...
No, it will definitely happen then too, but it is just... Any kind of big hit from enemies will stagger you for a second.
Yeah.
Which normally wouldn't be a problem, but sometimes they will follow up with an attack so fast that... Oh, see, they're taking away my little buddy there. How dare
taking away they're taking away your guy? Your AI buddy?
Yeah, they'll just hold on to him and then, you have to rescue him. Which you're going to want to do because he does most of the damage. As you might expect from a giant robot ape. Oh, you go up there.
And again, kind of like the last thing, like you can replay these little arenas for experience. And
yeah, and you will be doing that a lot.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way to level up once you start hitting that level requirement.
Oh, purple.
Yeah, purple is basically, the two colors mixed together. So you can shoot him with red or blue, and then eventually he'll kind of cycle between the different colors.
Oh, that's interesting. So learn your color wheel before you start playing.
Yes, that would help. And you'll have a boss fight like this.
So Olga, is she kind of she marks the end of this?
Yep.
Once you get through it, then.
Yeah. And we'll actually, you can see the little white triangles on her health bar there.
Yeah, I was wondering what those were.
That's basically at the point when you can, Duncan killed him too fast. But that's when you can pull out their core.
Oh, okay.
And so you want to weaken them, and then you kind of connect to it, and there's kind of this little tug of war mini game that you have to pull it out without breaking your line.
So you can either just flat out kill them or take their core, like you have a choice?
Yeah, and so if you blow them up, they'll drop crafting items that you use to build the new robot pieces of your companions.
Yeah.
Or if you pull out the orb, you'll get a certain number of that colored orb, which you can then use to level up their powers, basically. And so that is... Oh, how are they taking him away? Come on.
Do you have to worry about that?
No, but it's just rude.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah, and so that is a pretty comprehensive look, I think.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna give this game a shot.
Yeah, there's good stuff in there. Like I said, I got really frustrated in the kind of later half.
Yeah. And it looks like I should get a good mobile game to have for the loading times, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Get like a good Bejeweled or something.
I wrote out a lot of review notes during these load times.
The most extensive, well-noted review Jim's ever written. So
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks for showing it off. I believe this came out earlier this week, right? So it's out now on Xbox One. It's ReCore. Thanks, Jeffem.
Thank you, Kyle.